All right, so welcome to the metal shop. Kind of got away from calling my garage the metal shop. Going back to it. I like it. Anyway, this week I got my brake rotors back on. I don't know if you can see this without a frame of reference, but I had these turned down about 0.1875 of an inch, which is roughly the equivalent of 3/16, so that the dust cap will fit, will clear, and unfortunately it'll make the dust cap, the knockoff, still spin, but it has to, otherwise, remember, it was crushing in there. So a good friend of mine turned those down in his lathe, and you look and you can just see the bearing in there, and you're like, oh my gosh, before, this sit out to, about where this washer is, not quite, and the dust cap pounded in there. Well, I'm not really worried about it. I stay off of dirt roads. Matter of fact, today I took my Mustang out, and I was kind of ticked because they were paving in a couple spots. What I know to be paved roads were actually dirt. The thing got covered in dust. Anyway, I stay off dirt as much as possible, and like I said, don't forget, the center cap will go on here, and there will barely be, a slide a piece of paper in between there. It's gonna it's acting as the dust cap itself. Got this put back together. Set the preload on there. Just basically, it's just barely, an 1/8 of a turn past, finger tight snug. Use new cotter pins. Resist the urge to reuse your cotter pins. I'm as cheap as they come, but those things are fatigued when they're bent. You reuse it again, just like bending steel, back and forth, back and forth. It's going to break, and inevitably this thing's going to back off, and your wheel is going to go flying. So anyway, let's go to the other side real quick. Summit Racing sent me the replacement Cal Custom. I think that is a decal. If you open the package, I believe that's a freestanding decal. Sent me a replacement free of charge. I got those all. I did not press those this time. This time I laid this thing down in my vise, and I tapped them in with a hammer and like a big piece of pipe, used it like a drift. I'm gonna put some anti-seize on those after. I'm gonna cut those nubs off just like I did before. Then I'll put the anti-seize on, so I won't have to smell burning anti-seize when I'm running the cutoff wheel. All right, so what else we going on? Oh, there's the hammer that I pounded those in with, by the way. We have the turkey pan installed. Same friend who cut the rotors down in his lathe cut and welded me in clearance here for this HEI distributor. Like I said, this is the common theme. I've done a lot to run this distributor just for the simplicity of it. I don't have a separate coil. I don't need an MSD box. All the performance that you need is right here. And realistically, you hook up a battery to it. That's it, battery. And there's a tack signal if you want, which is optional. So you just one wire hookup. So anyway, you can see there. And what I actually found was I had to, this is just set in place. This is just a carb that's really just acting like a dust shield at this point. You see, I had to kind of elongate the holes, and it wasn't for clearance on this. It didn't really fit. They all lined up, but it went on super tight, so I had to get in there with a Dremel and a blade, and now you can see, we've got plenty of clearance there for the turkey pan. I want to run it. I like the looks of it, and it's absolutely going to clear the hood. You can see this here. This rides up inside the body. The hood, kind of sits right in this general area. If you look, you can see the body there. The hood is absolutely positively, I'm convinced myself that it's going to clear. And don't forget, this is made to go inside the hood scoop. I've seen some guys that run kind of a piece of foam or whatever here to really suck this right to the hood. And this is kind of an old school, cold air induction. This is just cool. Air's rammed in the scoop. It's funneled right into the turkey pan, right into the air cleaner. It's kind of it's actually a pretty good design. We got that done. Oh, I got my cushion clamp for the radiator hose. I'm going to put a couple of cushion clamps on there. I have started sanding the wheels in preparation for painting them. And what I found is, I'm going after them by hand, and I remembered that I have this this Dremel Multi-Max, and it comes with a sanding attachment. So this thing has worked in great. With this point here, you can really get in to all these areas. And so the sweet spot that I found is I've been using 120 grit on the Multi-Max, then going down to 220 by hand after. And really, what we're doing is there's so many different surfaces here that, I just kind of sit here and you just kind of work away at it, clean it off, you look for shiny spots. The way I kind of equate it is you're kind of worrying the finish off it. You're just kind of getting after it. There, you see a little shiny spot, you give it a... And I've seen some guys attack their chrome with like 60 and 80 grit, and I'm not going to have that. That will leave huge work marks in your paint job after the fact. 220, it's got fine scratches. It increases your surface area by 50%, 100% over the flat surface by putting all these fine scratches into there. I did get some, I don't have it here. I have this one, this is buff color. I got some black 2-part epoxy primer. This is really good stuff. You take this red cap off here, you puncture the bottom, and it mixes, so the hardener mixes in there, and it's only supposed to be good for 4 days after you mix them together. But everything I read, everything, 2-part epoxy is the best primer. It's just the best primer. It sticks to anything, and when you're painting on top of chrome, you have to use a 2-part epoxy. I'll hold off showing you the paint, the wheel paint. 2 of these are more or less done. I still have 2 to go before I paint, but you can join me at that time. Cool. All right, so it's the next day, and ironically, I'm working on cooling today because it's super hot. So sticky here today. But anyway, I don't know if you guys noticed this yesterday when I installed the turkey pan, and I kind of showed it. It was sitting on an angle. And I just thought, back in the old days, they used to put spacers in there to kind of angle your carb forward. I honestly think it was for like going up hills and stuff like that, so that for the flow of gasoline. But I checked and I forgot that. Let's take this off here. Set it aside. I forgot that I had this stupid vacuum fitting was sitting up here like this. And I left it finger tight so I could remove it so that the turkey pan was actually hitting on this and wouldn't sit flush. So I had this Mustang to the rescue again, this T-fitting, and I needed 2 ports really. One of them is going to be for positive crankcase ventilation. I'll have to get a, like a little one-way valve there. But the only thing I need vacuum for, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is for the distributor. Not running vacuum for anything else that I can think of right now. I have plenty of options, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just run the vacuum down here where it's out of the way of the turkey pan. You can't get this T-fitting on either of these locations because it won't spin. So, I could have done, 2 singles or whatever, but I just like the T. I kind of ground it down a little bit so it would sit nice and flush under there. It'll be a nice, nice clean installation. Kind of the vacuum lines will kind of be hidden. I can run one under here and one under the other side. Anyway, so I don't know. Let's go around the back. Oh, I picked this up here. This is actually, obviously it's a reproduction, but it's an exact replica of the original 427 SC dash. Cobra parts sell these. They're on the same landing site on the internet as Finish Line Accessories. So a little pricey. You can get plain panels from Factory 5 for, I want to say like 150 bucks, or you can get one of their panels which has, the street version gauges, which I really don't care for. I really wanted the SC gauges. As of right now, it doesn't fit, because of this giant, let's move this out of the way, because of this giant, stanchion that Street Beasts, lame, has here. This is actually in the right place. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim this out. I'm going to trim this. I've told you guys a bunch of times that bottom bump out is going to go away. That's from a 289 car. I'm going to run the support. I bought the support. The bracket's available from Factory 5. So I'm going to trim this to fit. I really like this detail from the original cars, how it kind of curves and tucks in here, versus this. I mean, it's cheap. It's just a flat panel. And again, this is another one of those things where, like, putting the gas tank in the wrong place and, you know, various things they do with it. Just shout, kit car, cheap kit car, you know, thrown together, garbage, you know, shouts at you, cheap. And I won't have it. So I'm going to combine the two, somehow use this rigid piece of fiberglass for support, trim that to fit. That's a work in progress. Anyway, sorry. So what I am installing today is the Derale high output shrouded electric fan. And obviously mine is not a dual. Mine is a single. This is a nice kit. Comes with the fan, comes with a shroud, comes with a fan controller here. And I can show you over here. Walk around. I've started installing it here. This is a nice piece of kit. It was a little bit tight in my assembly. I kind of had to tap in the sides here just a little bit just to get it to fit. And I was the fan controller here installs from the back. It's really pretty slick. And if you look at this, if you read this, where my finger, this is right side up, but there's no holes. The holes are here on the bottom. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. Why do they want you to mount it upside down? And they're like, well, it doesn't fit in here like this. It fits in here like this, but there's no holes. Okay. They installed mine upside down. This, God, terrible camera work. I apologize, guys. This pops out. You can flip it around so that it mounts in place there. There's the cover. It'll be mounted here. There's just some couple little L-shaped brackets that will bolt this right to the flange here on the radiator. And it's tight, but it does fit. Clears this. The thing it actually hits is this, you know, which is kind of fixed. I really wish that had been a straight. It would have made a lot of things easier had that been a straight outlet. A lot of things would have been easier with the radiator here had I just, you know, bit the bullet and bought, you know, and had a radiator fabbed. But this one came with the kit. I was kind of hard-headed and determined to make it work. You know, the Derale kit is really nice. You know, comes with, you know, those are your L brackets, your mounting L brackets, and all the hardware, all the wiring, even a relay if you need it. This is rubber for the edge so that it won't dig into your radiator. Top shelf kit here, and quite honestly, I got this one from Jegs, a little bit cheaper than Summit this time. I think it was about $370, free shipping, which sounds like a lot, but factor in, buy a fan. A good fan that runs the CFM that you want is going to cost you about 125 bucks. Then a shroud. Do you have one made to fit? Do you buy a shroud for it? That's going to be another, let's call it 7,500 bucks. Now we're up at, you know, 225. You want the fan controller? You know, really, this is a really nice 2-speed fan controller. Oh, and it uses, where did I put it? Oh, there it is. Uses this cool sensor which actually sticks to the radiator near the outlet. Instead of the old style, you have the probe that pushed into the fins, which I liked. There's nothing wrong with that, but this is just kind of cool. You know, it comes with this, you know, all the wiring. So if you were to piece this out, you know, you're gonna have a patchwork kit that isn't gonna work. You're gonna have to customize everything, and you're still gonna be, you know, over $300, $340, $350. So in my opinion, this is the way to go. I got a shroud that fits. I got a fan that moves way more CFM than I want. I went with the S design fan. It's quieter. That's what came with the kit. The regular prop style that looks more like an airplane prop are super loud, but this car, you know, straight pipes, you're never going to even hear the fan. And honestly, I don't want to hear the fan. I want to hear the engine. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm going to keep banging away at that. So stand by. So it is a week later, and thankfully weather is much more agreeable. Hi George. Nice and cool and still sunny. So I have this all assembled, have the L brackets mounted in place. I put this edging on, which quite honestly kind of screwed me. It just barely fit before. If you remember, I had to bend the sides in a little bit to make up an eighth of, sorry. You had to make up 1/8 of an inch, so it's 16th per side, but adding this rubber kind of put me back out. So anyway, got my sensor installed here. I used an existing hole with a grommet, and I got some of these platform 3M sticky mounts for holding a zip tie, just to hold the wire up out of the way here. It's just cleaner, in my opinion, to run the wire inside. You have all this space in here, and as long as you keep everything clear from the fan, you're good, and you don't have loose wires around on the outside. So I did get the fan controller mounted up. I'm just getting ready to put this in place. You can see how nice this is. I used grommets here because the wires are coming through on a hard, sharp aluminum edge. You know, that's the way Derale had it. So I'm getting ready to mount it up in the car. Should sit in place pretty well. Got to drill a few holes. Just use some screws here. I think these are 1/4 inch. They give you tons of nylock nuts. Go with it. Plenty of washers. Shouldn't be too much of a chore other than getting underneath the car, because I'm not taking that radiator. I'm getting underneath the car to drill the holes on the underside. But I can crawl in there on my back and do that. So let's get that going. All right, so we're in. It was a chore getting it in with that rubber gasket around there, which made it fit super tight, but I was able to get it in. And on a side note here, it was pretty irritating. I broke one of these. My fault. I was kind of tugging on it to pull the fan into place and snapped right off. I super glued it back on. Was very careful to not touch it. So in theory, it should be fine. You'll see house bolts are overkill. I probably didn't need 8 bolts, and in all reality, I only have 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I only have 1 here on this corner, because if you remember way back, this bracket that I fabbed up here, it goes right into this channel on the bottom, and it comes out to like here. So it was right in the way. You could not, I drilled the hole, and then I couldn't figure out why there was an obstruction there, and I was like, oh God, did I drill into the radiator? No, I realized I did not, but anyway, yeah. So 7 bolts probably more than enough to hold it. Saving the wiring for when I wire the car, which is coming up. So that'll do it for this week. Really appreciate your support. Please give me a like. Please hit subscribe if you are new to the channel, and leave me a comment. Even if it's a criticism, as long as it's constructive, you know, well written, and not haterism. Even if it is, I reply to all my comments, but you know, most of the haters just get deleted. You don't get a forum on my channel. Anyway, for your opinion. So as always, my friends, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate your support. Cobra.